And then we have a lot of those. So again, low prospect volume, but relatively high prospect to inquiry conversion and inquiry to application volume, conversion. So we're seeing a lot of mobility in the students that are at these schools. We need to get more students from that school into our funnel. Maybe that's more recruitment travel. Maybe that's more outreach to high school counselors, like saying, hey, students from your school do wonderful stuff here. They fit well with us. They're more likely to be admitted. They have great academic success. They go on to get great jobs. You can actually run featurettes on students from that school. That it's not just like, hey, fluff, hey, send your students here. Like, hey, we're taking the time to show you just how amazing your students are that go here. Or maybe it's an automated email to those prospective students saying like, hey, our average admit rate is 12%. The average admit rate for students who go to your school is 25%. Whatever it is, you're communicating to the students at that school that they are a wonderful fit for your institution, even more so than the broader population. So being able to communicate that in a way, just because they have a Quorum persona, so you could automate your emails, or you could have a specific campaign that just looks for this organization persona. So in 45 minutes, we did our tarot read, our intro, and our training to build a Quorum score. These could then be imported back into Slate fields at the organization level. So whenever you need it, just join from student to school rank 1 to organization, and then pull this data. You can also add this as entities to those to the organizations. So you can get that year over year. Where is your market shifting and getting ahead of trends, and also letting either. We'll save that for a second. So this will conclude the formal training portion of this. And I would say, just since Slate already has an organization data set, it's really easy to set up and build under that umbrella, because students who go to the same school might have a more similar experience than just students who possibly have the same zip code or Geomarket as that broader umbrella focal point for location. So doing a Quorum score at the organization level, especially for your first Quorum score, I think makes a lot of sense. You're not having to spin up data set for zip code or Geomarket as well. And you start to understand where your institution resonates with organizations. So you can start optimizing your own budget, your own time, your own staff in a way that is able to make the biggest impact on both student lives and, we'll call it what it is, ROI for recruitment travel. You're not just going to the string of schools because 5 years ago, a staff member had family nearby, so that's just the 5 schools they knew about, and they needed 5 more schools to hit their quota of schools that they needed to hit for recruitment travel. You're actually identifying either outperforming or large growth potential organizations for your institution, and you're targeting recruitment travel and relationship building. Like I said, having more fleshed out relationships with the counselors, or focusing and highlighting student success from organizations or types of schools that you can then disseminate back to those schools. And having student writing email communications. If you can only have you only have time to pay 4 students to write emails, you have a better guidance of what students to get to hit these locales, because you have the data to back up your planning. And as you start seeing these underperforming schools and organizations, zip codes, geomarkets, you can actually start asking yourself questions that are sometimes uncomfortable. But like, what are we doing that's not resonating here at the school? What is not working? What are we doing that's not serving the students or the institution? And this isn't a call to just cut them and don't touch those schools. It's to start working on it. It's a call to action, really, for the institution to be more mindful with your activities based off the data. As you see, you have an underperforming strategy with these high volume. You're buying tens of thousands of names, and they're just not converting. What is your buy strategy? What is your relationship building? Are you just buying them and assuming that they're going to come? Or are you actually reaching out to these students and these high school counselors and these CBOs in a way that builds a bridge for them to actually get to your institution? And the data piece is so helpful, and the automation piece is so helpful. There will be schools, especially more local ones, that your counselors have a feeling for. They have a gut instinct of what institutions have an ethos that plays well with your school, or we're connected in a way to the student body or the counseling staff that allows this to be a very strong feeder school for us. But there are so many schools across the country. We're not always going to have that institutional knowledge in the heads of people who are doing the recruitment. And that also puts such a huge burden on the staff to know these things, to remember these things, to understand the nuance of every single institution, especially with, as high as turnover is in admission offices. There's a lot more human work and human brain space that they could dedicate than knowing like, okay, yeah, these are the 75 schools in my territory that perform well. And we just kind of know they're a low volume, high conversion type of institution, just with that institutional knowledge that accumulates through the repetitions that staff do. But now that they have this knowledge at their fingertips, they can build upon it. They can do more interesting work with these schools because they don't have some spreadsheet that they're manually maintaining because they remember they saw 7 students at this high school visit at the school. So unloading that burden off of the staff and into machines do this well. Humans do other work exceedingly well. And in a time where there is so much conversion to machines, being able to enrich the human experience is so incredibly important. And having this as a data source helps with the decision making, knowing where do we put our budget at, onboarding new staff, getting them up to speed in a way that is simple handoff conversation, and that you may or may not have because hiring takes longer. Finding a qualified professional to step into the role that your former staff might have already left. So there are a few asterisks with a score like this. Schools that are close to you, schools that already receive a lot of recruitment travel in the area and to those institutions, college fairs, things like that, they're going to have an inflated quorum score. So you can create an adjusted quorum score by either like adding or subtracting points based off of distance or events in the area. Kind of like how we do bonuses with engagement scoring. You could run a regression, adjust by the residuals, and understanding that every student who goes to an organization is not the same student. This is just trying to help contextualize the student in a way that allows you to understand their student journey a little bit more. And this is one small puzzle piece in that larger ecospherical map of the student journey that we're going to be building in adaptive enrollment management. As we start building this, though, we can add this to the organization level. It's pretty easy and configurable joins, then pull that data. And like I said, recommend spin up an entity, get your year-over-year tracking. Probably is not going to wildly vary year to year, but you do start getting that year-over-year tracking that you can start seeing the shift take place, especially as we start to, I don't want to say plummet off the demographic cliff, but everything that I'm reading on that is, yes, there is a slowdown. There was a slowdown in births and immigration, migration. Those are all in flux in some parts of the country, in a sense of being a feeder location for schools is better or worse. And a lot of that is in flux just with recent climate. Again, just dancing around. Okay, we're going to move on. I'm not looking to get into that conversation. So as we start to wrap this up, I want to leave with a quote from our practitioner, Datamancer. True travel strategy is written not on paper, but in the currents of your data. And when you follow the currents, the path reveals itself. And this is just one brick on that path that allows you to start understanding students better and being able to implement what is very quickly dwindling resources in a way that is strategic and can make the largest impact for students and for your institution. For our runes of practice today, build a query in Slate to pull things like record volume, application conversion, engagement metrics around an umbrella data set. Like organizations we did today, you could also do this around zip codes, geomarkets. Those you would have to spin up a data set to have the scores and the personas actually related to those items that are on the student's record. And then calculate a quorum score in Excel that blends these elements into a single measure. And I would recommend adding the individual contributions to the score as well. You can run a dashboard that calculates these in real time. But again, if this is something that is slow or something that you want to look at in a broader context than just having to run those independent subqueries on the records at each of these schools, this is a great way to have that fast, quick, easy data already as a field, not having to live calculate it. And understanding, like, I wouldn't recommend running this every week. So if you are doing something that is a little bit more fine-tuned, like, okay, we have 7 students from this school this week, our goal is 15 students, and measuring progress, do that as an independent subquery and just run that total. But this is broader contextual and strategy work that I think can inform conversations around recruitment, whether that's travel, whether that's relationship building, whether that's marketing, communications, student features. And having this data in a quick query and a report, I think, is just helpful. This allows you to identify those schools, zips, geomarkets, and aggregate that into quorum personas, quorum scores that can help guide where staff time yields the greatest impact for students and your institution. But it also allows you to start identifying similar schools that are still untapped. Maybe you have, again, even if it's institutional knowledge, or just as you start to explore this data, like, hey, these schools are pretty similar. They do share a lot of similarities. They might perform better at our institution, kind of like this great high conversion school. If we spend a little time, again, maybe it's a couple student features, maybe it's a couple counselor calls, and being able to establish that pipeline that can replicate great success that we have. So you have these untapped markets and these untapped schools that this can help float to the surface, or at least add a little bit of a brushstroke and help you along that path to pilot some experiments with some of these organizations that seem like they might be untapped. And then workshop engagement with underperforming feeder schools to find a way that works. So as I said earlier, this isn't a way to just stop recruitment travel to underperforming schools. It's identifying which schools that what you're doing isn't working and working with them in a way that we can start bridging the student to institution pipeline in a way that is empowering to the student and impactful for the institution. And then use the score and personas to align travel schedules with demonstrated student behaviors, improving both efficiency and relevance. Again, if you're doing that 7th high school visit for the 7th year and there's just no one showing up, maybe a quorum score can help you understand, like, oh, okay, yeah, the schools around it resonate with our institutions. We can see this in the quorum score. We can see this in event attendance. There's just something happening at this school. Maybe it's a high school counselor that didn't like that you didn't admit one of their students, and maybe you just need to smooth that over. Or maybe it's students' emails, you didn't notice that they were blocking your event notifications. And again, you can start understanding those pieces in other ways, but this is just another data point to help you understand what is and isn't working in a way that just relying on overworked staff to take a minute, understand the context of which the success and failure is happening, and trying to troubleshoot it, that they just don't have time to do that for every single data element and every single piece of work that they do. And revisit the score each recruitment cycle to keep this model responsive to shifting markets. I would not recommend. I don't think there's any great value in doing it more frequently than once, maybe twice a year. Again, anything more frequent than that, I think you're looking at these individual data points like volume and conversion, and you could just be running that in Slate. I don't think it is helpful or going to actually make a final score difference to be running that more often. Guiding artifacts are, again, coming, sample queries, suitcases, one-pagers. Let me know what's going to be helpful for you to replicate these processes at your institution.